So, I talked before, several videos ago, about how Promise Reprise, the piece of music that we're about to hear, uh, seems to be a combination of two themes. We've got the Promise theme, which we heard during the letter reading at the beginning of the game. And I talked about one of the progressions a bunch, but didn't really talk about the second progression as much as I would have liked. But for that, we've got the verse of Promise, which is the and then we have the chorus chord progression for it, which is and that's all in A minor in the version that we hear during the letter reading. In Promise Reprise, which I believe it's pronounced reprise. That's what I've looked up, seen every time I looked it up. But I also feel like it makes me sound pretentious. Like, if you want to pronounce it reprise, that's fine. I'm not going to judge you. But yeah, in Promise Reprise, which we're about to hear, all of that gets transposed down to G minor, and we hear it as. So that's the same chorus progression from Promise, the original Promise theme, but transposed to a different key. It's called a reprise because a reprise is any musical idea that gets used again, essentially. You see it a lot in musicals, where you've got like the initial version of a song and then the reprise version of that song. Like in Jesus Christ Superstar, you've got Everything's All Right, and then later when Mary Magdalene comes back later to comfort Jesus, it's Everything's All Right reprise. Basically it just means like, hey, we're hearing this theme again. So we're using the Promise chord progression, which we associate with James, and then we're using the melody that we first hear during Forest, which is the music that plays during Angela's first scene, and I've come to associate with Angela, which is that theme. In that piece, it's in F minor, with, and it goes. It's a little bit freer. That is also getting transposed to G minor. So we have James's chord progression and Angela's melody in a scene where the two of them are present. One thing that I want to bring up about the way that this piece sounds is when you see people do covers of the song, you will typically see them play it like they've split James's progression into the left hand and the melody into the right hand, like a pianist would do, and play it like this. But if you'll notice, that doesn't sound quite exactly like what we're about to hear. I have a theory that when Akira Yamaoka was writing the original Silent Hill 2 soundtrack, he only had so much data he could use, on a very literal level. There was only so much he could put into the soundtrack, and maybe he had a small MIDI keyboard that he was using, and so instead of playing both those parts together like the way I just did, he records the James progression on its own, loops that, and then records the Angela progression separately. Or the Angela melody. So that we get this effect of. See, if I try to play those together at the same time, it doesn't quite work, but because Akira Yamaoka he loops it. So, to drop another musical term, looping is a term used in music when you take something like a sample or a recording and you just have it play over and over again. So like the samples we were talking about before in room 213 of Woodside, or a drum machine beat, rather than having to sit there for a full 3-5 minutes, however long the song is, going Akira Yamaoka can record it just that much that I played and then just play it over and over again. Thematic time loop. I see what you're saying, Cleo. I don't think it was necessarily intentional, but I do like that it gains that, like retroactively gains that potential meaning and resonance on a storytelling level. Like in music that utilizes samples, there's going to be a lot of looping. Drum machine stuff, there's also a lot of looping. So I think it's likely it's a happy accident that ends up having a little bit of thematic resonance with the whole idea of the time loop that seems to be present here in the remake at the very least. So yeah, Akira Yamaoka is able to record those two parts separately and then like pan them in the mix, like left and right, or like produce them in such a way where you're able to hear both parts distinctly, but they don't cancel each other out. Yeah, the way it's written, James and Angela's themes are literally on top of each other note-wise, which, yeah, may be a technology limitation, but it also feels very thematic. Angela and James are in the same place, but seeing different worlds, etc. That is such a good take, Amat, and I needed to interrupt myself to read it and relay it, because that is great. The other thing that I want to talk about on a compositional level with this particular chord progression is... Last time we were talking about diatonic and non-diatonic chords. We are in the key of G minor, and that means the notes that we typically use in this key, those are all the notes that are diatonic to this key. In this chord progression, we get a single non-diatonic note, that one. It is the raised sixth. If we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's what we would usually hear. We're adding this in. So talking about the chord progression, we've got, if I'm just playing these like block chords, I can kind of, we've got G, it's like a suggestion of G minor because we know we're in that key, but without the third it becomes a perfect fifth, which Cleo, you and I have talked a bit about that over the email chain. The thing that's nice about a perfect fifth without the third in the middle is it kind of leaves this ambiguous feeling of, oh, are we in a major key or a minor key? And until Angela's melody comes in, we don't know, really. We've got, that could be G major or G minor. It could be, or then we get this E flat 7 chord constructed off of the 6th scale degree. I know I'm throwing a lot of terminology at you, but at the end of the day, it all comes back to math. We're starting on the 6th note of the scale and creating this chord, major 7th, which gives is another chord that feels kind of ambiguous. And it's also using two notes from the previous chord, which gives it this kind of like suspended feel. And then we switch to, this is a C major chord. Like this chord kind of suggested to us, okay, maybe we're in G minor. This doesn't feel like G minor. This feels like, oh, we're maybe perhaps in a major area. And then it goes to C minor, which brings us back into the minor area. And this is a very common, this chord in a minor mode. Mode is another term for like scale, kind of. I'm being very reductive, but we only have so much time tonight, guys. This chord this major 4 chord. We can also refer to chords by the scale degree they're built on. So we've got our 1 chord because it starts on the G. We've got our 4 chord, which starts on the 4th scale degree. It's very common in like blues music and music that is kind of trying to convey a sense of mystery to have this major chord. So if we got G minor as our 1 chord and then C major as our 4 chord, minor 1 to minor 4 or to major 4 is, like I said, used in a lot of blues music. Another place you hear this chord used, like these specific 2 chords, Shine on You Crazy Diamond by Pink Floyd. Most of that song is like the instrumental sections are based around to the C major. And it has this, like, I love that chord relationship. It's all over Pink Floyd's music. If we want to go to another song, breathe, breathe in the air. It's that same 1 to 4 relationship, minor 1 to major 4. And there's something about that just has that sense of mystery. Like, we're in a melancholy state, but there's something that lifts us out of it for a moment. And I used the term mode a few times. Oftentimes, composers will justify using a chord that's technically non-diatonic to the mode or key that they're working in by calling it mode mixture. Oh, well, we're borrowing a chord from G major, because if we were in G major, that C chord is completely justified, that C major chord. But since we're in G minor, how do we justify using this non-diatonic chord? Well, we call it mode mixture. One last reference point I'll use. Another way that, like, on a musical level, we can justify things like that is through stepwise motion. I think I talked in an earlier video about how, like, steps are how we refer to, like, intervals and stuff, where each like, that's a half step, that's a whole step. Like, if you're looking at it on a guitar, this is going like from 1 fret to the next fret over, and that's a half step. 2 frets would be a whole step. Another way that we can justify stuff that shouldn't necessarily work is through stepwise motion. And so in Promise Reprise, we essentially have this chord progression going. Those notes are both in G minor, and then we move up to this non-diatonic note, but because we move to it through stepwise motion, it almost makes it's almost fine, rather than if we were like going or, doesn't necessarily sound as good, but since we've got that, and then we go back to that for the C minor chord. And you'll probably have noticed another mystery theme that uses the same progression. Mystery, the major 4 chord, because I feel like that major 4 chord is very mysterious in a minor mode, and it's being purposefully used here to start to move us in this realm of, like, well, we started in very diatonic stuff with the original Promise theme, but now we're starting to move. The story is getting more layered and complex, and so we're starting to move into non-diatonic stuff in James's own story. James's theme is evolving and starting to become more complex as he learns. His story becomes more complex. He's starting to wonder, like, okay, where is Mary? What's going on here? What's going on with Angela? What is all this stuff going on with the other world, and am I ever going to get out of here? And it's something that I want to bring up in a larger sense as we talk more and more about the music, is how as things get more complex and darker and more mysterious or complicated, we the chord progressions we hear in like the major thematic music start to push into more non-diatonic areas as a way to kind of convey that on a subliminal level. One last thing I'll point out about this piece of music before we enter the room is that in the original game, as with like most stuff when you're writing it, most soundtrack work when you're writing it for a movie or a video game or whatever, you don't necessarily know how the director is going to use it. And particularly for video games, a lot of the time you need to write stuff that is easily loopable, another term that we talked about today, because you don't know how long someone's going to stay in a certain area or a scene's going to go, and so you just have it be repetitive. Like you come up with a piece of music and you make sure that it can be looped pretty easily, so that if the scene ends up being longer or shorter, it can do that. One of the advantages they had with the remake is knowing a little bit more how long those scenes are going to be, or in some cases they might have just had a scene ready for Akira Yamaoka to re-record the music to. And so for this version of the piece, which is called Promise of the Forgotten on the new soundtrack, there are some added bits at the very beginning and end of the song that are decidedly like ambiguous. We don't have a tonal center. There are a lot of notes that don't sound like they make sense to each other, and it is kind of like, oh, that feeling of at the beginning of the scene, James enters the room, he sees Angela and is not sure what to make of the situation. And it isn't until he starts to get a handle on what's going on that we start to hear the chord progression and the leitmotif, the repeated part, give us a tonal center with and then at the end of the scene, as Angela's leaving the room and she and James are again on just completely different wavelengths and things become more complicated again, the theme slows down, and then we hear some more like dissonance and stuff that has no tonal center as a way to be like, oh, James and Angela were kind of starting to like they were able to connect a little bit in certain ways, even if they're not seeing the same thing, and then stuff happens that forces them out of each other's world again, and we hear that represented in the music. So I know that was a lot of stuff to talk about, but I'm kind of glad I ended on that moment, because it kind of helps illustrate all the stuff I've been talking about non-diatonic versus diatonic, consonance versus dissonance. It's very purposeful the way that Akira Yamaoka uses the soundtrack to convey the subliminal story going on in these characters' minds of like, oh, I don't know what's going on here, there's no tonal center. Oh, I think I understand a little bit more what's going on here. Here's the theme entering. And then at the end of the scene, oh, something's going on here that I don't understand again. We've lost our tonal center. So yeah, now that we've talked about all that, let's get back into it and actually hear all the things that I've been talking about. So we don't have any chords, just notes.
Oh, it's you.
Yeah. I'm James.
Angela.
Angela.
They've made the connection with their names.
Okay.
The theme comes in.
Look, I'm not sure what you're planning, but there's always another way.
Really? What's the point? It's easier just to run. Maybe it's all we deserve.
We?
Me.
Strings
You.
enter as things get more
We're all
complicated,
the same.
I'm not like you.
more intense.
Are you afraid?
Sorry.
It's okay. Did you find your mother?
No. Not yet.
Did she live here? In this building?
I don't know.
So all you know is that she lived in this town?
What did you say?
How did you know that?
Well, I just figured because this is where you're looking for her. How else would I know?
Yeah. Sorry. Did you find the person that you were looking for?
Not yet. Her name's Mary. She's my wife.
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. I don't know why I think she's here. She died 3 years ago.
She's dead?
Don't worry, I'm not crazy. At least I don't think so.
I have to find my mama.
Should I go with you? This town really is dangerous. I know what you meant back there in the cemetery.
No, it's okay. Besides, I'd just slow you down.
What about that?
Will you hold it for me?
Sure. No problem.
That's where the music starts to slow.
If I kept it, I'm not sure what I might do.
Very dissonant notes.
I'm sorry.
As the tension escalates in a way that is unexpected.
Please don't.
Lots of notes that are diatonic to G minor. Or one specific one. Okay. There at the end I wanted to point out a specific note. So we talked about how like you can kind of justify that note as being from the Dorian mode, which is just one note off from the regular G minor scale. At the end there we get this thrown in those really atmospheric chords. Really quick, I'll switch back over to the piano demo screen so you can see what I'm doing on the piano. We got, so like I was saying before, the C major is kind of justifiable in the Dorian mode, but then we get that note, which is just off from this, and that is more characteristic of other scales, like stuff that is much further removed and have a lot more altered notes than the Dorian mode. But yeah, I just wanted to highlight that, but I will move us away from this knife now.